It's you, it's true, and there's a song or two, hey.
Hey folks, today we have Tom Corneill on the channel. He's cool, he's a really nice guy, he's very easy to be around. Another Tom that makes 50% of the interviews so far Toms, which probably won't last. And I know I said I loved the other Tom very much, but I love this Tom too. He's a cool guy, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy our conversation today. I've seen him play a few times. He's got a very lovely style about him, and he's a really easy person to talk to. So really looking forward to the conversation. I hope you are too. Stay tuned, and we'll see what we get up to.
Well, I use a stage one when I'm playing anywhere, but God, that smells amazing. That smells like popcorn, which is great.
Funny enough, there is a popcorn flavoured one.
Is there?
Yeah, in there. You've got the Cobra Kai mug,
obviously.
Yeah. I'm trying to work with that. People get different mugs, and I actually felt like, because each time the mug has been different, I need to like go out and buy some quirky mugs.
Of course, yeah.
Because Abigail had the Mr. T mug, and then who was after that? Tom Forbes had my joke mug, which says, "This next fart's a poo," which is amazing. And then what was it? And then Jess had the Hedwig mug. So now you've got the Cobra Kai mug.
Amazing, thank you.
I'm not sure there's many left, but we'll
you're gonna keep going.
Yeah, mate. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I'm really glad that you came.
Oh, mate, thank you for asking. It's nice to come and hang out.
Yeah. Also, I enjoyed. I know it was like during a gig, but when we sort of jammed last time, I really liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise.
I really like the way you do it. You see my hard work here.
Yeah, for a minute I was trying to figure out if you had some sort of purple acetate over the notepad, but it is actually purple, right?
Yeah,
or else I'm
purple.
having a stroke or something.
But Marie got it. Apparently, it's visually helpful for dyslexia. But
is it?
I don't know.
Interesting.
It's just a theory.
Wow. Okay.
But it's quite nice.
Suits me.
Yeah. What was it? So
your handwriting,
is
weirdly like mine. That's disconcerting because although I can read yours, maybe that's why I can read it. But yeah,
okay.
To me, your handwriting looks bizarrely like mine.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
It does. We've got a similar thing going on.
Don't you find that like the level of patience you have dictates how good your handwriting is going to be?
100%. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I actually have fairly good handwriting, but I never feel like writing out a full sentence.
No. I can do it really nicely.
Yeah, that's it.
That's my Christmas card to important people. Handwriting is really good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. A Christmas card. That's
and then as I move down the list, from the most important people to the do we have to do one for them this year? I suppose we should. The handwriting gets if anyone's
second
had
cousins and things like that. Yeah, makes sense. But I think across the board, no, man, I can't be bothered. And there's I don't know about you, but there's a real, if I don't really want to be doing it, there's a real, come on, let's get this finished kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Actually, all my admin, the moment I start, I'm like, right, this needs to be finished. And I just go in.
That's a good mindset. But you are quite disciplined, I think, as a person. I get the impression that you're fairly well disciplined. So I bet if you get your head down to do something, it does get done. I'm very easily distracted. I try to be like that, but it takes a lot for me to not be distracted by things.
Right, okay. In this being a gigging musician, have you got a routine with regards to like social media, admin of invoices, like that you've kind of stick to, or do you just sort of do it as it feels?
No, I probably should do, but I've found that the shape of either the way that things come at me changes based on what I've got the most kind of work for at any given time, and so the routine kind of goes out the window, or I feel like something isn't working that efficiently, so there's no point sticking to it like that. So I tend to find like social media I go up and down with. I'll go through phases of being normally it's when the band have got a lot to, we've got something to promote. I'm fairly religious about social media. But then when I look at it and I sort of think I'm not a big fan of social media. People would probably be surprised at that, anyone who follows me, because I appear to be on it quite a lot, and I use good photography and stuff, but actually in real life I don't want to be doing it. I'm doing it because I feel like it's a necessary promotional tool. That said, I was quite, compared to some people, I was a relatively late adopter of like Instagram, which is my poison of choice, and no matter what I does, my audience hasn't really grown in the, well, I've got maybe more than an everyday user might have, but not as much as a business ought to have. And it doesn't matter what tactics I employ. I've done everything. I've attended courses. I've had people know what they're doing, try and coach me in it. And even they're surprised that, oh no, it's just not, the quality is really good and stuff, but it's just not growing. And so at some point I sort of wonder if it's really even necessary to be there. Or whether whether I seem to be existing. My business. So I turned back to full-time music in 2020 really, but it wasn't really there because we had a pandemic and there was no gigs and stuff. But since sort of July 2021, when I went back out and started playing again, in 18 months I've grown my business. I've got gigs, I've got a website, I've got business coming in, I've got inquiries, I've grown a business in 18 months, and in that time social media has basically not changed for me. And the message there is sort of, do you need it? Right, okay. It doesn't appear to have been a tool. It hasn't grown at the same rate as everything else you're doing. So is it really necessary, this thing that you dislike so much? And I keep thinking maybe I should switch it off.
That's really.
But I don't know. That's not really what you asked me. Sorry, that was.
Well, I really liked listening to the perspective, because we've all got our own with that, haven't we? And I've got mine, and you do. You wonder why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Personally, from someone who's not you and sees your social media, I think that what you do is really good and definitely effective.
Oh, thank you.
I would say so.
Thank you for that.
And I know that what you mean about the growing. That's like that's a tough one, isn't it? But personally, I think it looks really good.
Oh, well, that's. I mean, and what so flip that on its head. I think whenever I see you doing something, whether it is musical or often it's like with martial arts and your exercise and stuff, I'm seeing that and feeling inspired by it, because I try to follow people only who I feel like. All right, I'd probably follow a lot of people. It's a bit of a follow for follow type thing with friends who do a similar sort of thing, but I try to not just follow friends for the sake of it, but to follow people who, when I see their content, it makes me want to try a bit harder to do something, and it does have that uplifting effect. That I love what you do. I love your songs. I love your music, and when I see you doing something, it does make me think, oh, I should do something. It sort of lifts me up. Cool. And that is an argument for doing it. So maybe it's things like that there's a handful of people who are either friends or people who I just have a real interest in, and they post something and I think, oh no, I need to get on with that. So I don't know. I don't know. A decision
I think that without a doubt, even if certain individuals haven't sort of liked it, because my music page on Facebook's the same, it hasn't grown in years really.
Yeah.
But if I want to get a gig through a venue, and then the impression they get is, oh look, they're busy.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes. Well, this is true. Yeah.
When it came to like with martial arts because I have less need to. Nowadays, I have less need to sort of advertise what I'm doing in training and stuff like that. Yeah. Years ago, it was more important, but as a result, every now and then I'll share something and someone will comment like, "Oh, good to see you doing that again."
Yeah.
And the thought is, well, I didn't stop doing that.
Yeah.
But their perception is, as in you posted again for 2 months.
Yeah.
So I feel like if a venue were to look and say, "Oh, they gigged 3 months ago and haven't gigged since."
Yes.
that wouldn't be the truth.
Yeah, you just talked me back into it. I now love it again. No, but I mean, there is totally a sense there. I think of when I go out on my own playing, most of my bills are paid through doing weddings and corporate events and things like that. And a lot of those people, having found me through some medium online, will then follow me and see what I'm up to. And so if there isn't a place where you're posting about all those things, then, I guess, they don't have that kind of evidence. So yeah, there is a good, you've argued me back into it.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm glad. I'm not getting anything from it. But the fact that you're like your friend being a photographer and some of your pictures are really good.
Yeah.
I think that with weddings, I think that helps definitely, because
yes.
It's like, oh, what do I want on my wedding? Oh, look at that, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I have a really hard time with social media as well. I think everyone does. And like I've noticed that, because I don't have it on my phone, I only have it on my iPad. I've noticed that if I turn the iPad off and as a result don't look at social media for, say, probably never longer than 2 or 3 days really, but for that amount of time, I noticeably feel better.
Huh. Right.
Because I haven't took in all of this stuff to think about that I wouldn't have therefore thought about, like what Joey whatever from high school was doing, or sort of thing.
I think that is definitely really, really valid. And they reckon that the algorithm doesn't care so much about how frequently you or the volume that you're posting, but that you are posting something at relatively regulated intervals. So like, be consistent basically. So it's not that you have to be on there every day, although some people would say you do, but just don't leave it for 3 weeks and then post 3 times in a day and then leave it for 6 months. And then, you know, and I think there's probably some truth in that. So I could definitely afford to. I think at the moment, probably it's very heavily on my mind because the band's got an album coming out soon, and we just released the single. We've got another one coming out, and so I feel like I need to be telling everyone about it all the time. But I'm looking forward to it having been done and the album being out in the world, and then just going back to it's a thing that you tap into when you've got something to say, or
that's right.
Just every so often with an update of what's going on and stuff. That would be good. At the moment, I'm probably feeling hypersensitive to it because I feel there's a weight of pressure of having to be present.
Yeah.
So
yeah, same. Yeah. I think I've gotten sort of somewhat carried away with the being the promoter as well as being the musician. I feel that I have a routine, and I have reminders go off on my phone, and every week I have. So on Wednesday I do all the posters.
Right. Okay.
So that's 3 posters. It's not like loads, but I do the 3 posters, and that's my Wednesday. And then I can't remember what. I think on Tuesday I make a note to share about my own gigs from the weekend before and coming up and things like that. So yeah, same. I feel glued to it and sometimes imprisoned by it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. At the same way, it's a good practice. Like, and this sounds like, oh wow, I've got this figured out. Right, I actually suck at this, but I try to, and sometimes succeed. Here's the list of actual reasons I'm going on it.
Yeah.
And I only am going to do those.
Yeah, great.
I'm not gonna venture down the rabbit hole and then turn it off afterwards.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
But it's really hard though, isn't it?
Very hard.
Because it's the, I take it, I imagine, because most people did. Did you watch that documentary on, was it Netflix, about social media?
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I did. It was on Netflix. I can't remember what it was called now.
Social Dilemma.
Yes.
I think it was called that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, like either you're using it as a tool, or it's using you as one. Yeah, essentially.
Absolutely.
Like the wording was way better than that, but it was along those lines.
No, it's more or less. Yeah, it's more or less right. I think.
And the moment you get lost in the scrolling and the whatever, that's like they're using you now.
They've won. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're dead right. It's so I will often I have an addiction to my phone. I know I have.
Oh yeah.
And I will I'm the sort of person who has panicked suddenly and gone, where did I put my phone? And it's in my hand and the screen is open and I'm doing something, but I'm like, where's that other guy that comes with me everywhere that I need to talk to that other guy, but it's just this device and it's there. I'm doing something on it.
Crazy.
It's so present in my mind and in my life. But I know that I go through phases of being quite good at. I'm a big believer that the whole point is I want to beat it. I've been provided this thing. The marketing said that you can run your everything off it. So I want to use it for its intended purpose, and it has some good purpose. It can do good, it can help you with your business. I do essentially run my business off this little device.
Yeah.
And I go through phases of sort of winning with it and going, right, I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to do the thing that I need to do. I'm going to put you down again. But how often I pick it up, get distracted by a color or something and press the different app. That's not where I wanted to go. And, half an hour later, I put the phone down and think, I didn't even do the thing that I meant to do. I've just spent half an hour scrolling on this. I've just bought this on eBay. That wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
I've been watching cat videos, and
I mean that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Have you got a cat?
Sort of. I have a cat that used to be my cat in a previous marriage.
Right. Okay.
And now she lives with my folks. So
right.
She's still in my life.
Oh, amazing. Right. Okay.
She's a legend. Yeah.
Great.
And as a result, anything with an animal video on.
Yeah.
You go on to do work, and then you go, oh, look at this cat playing with this other cat.
Oh my god! And Instagram knows that I like a cat video, so of course it shows me just tons and tons, and occasionally dogs, also great. But I'm I'm a cat-based individual, so I reckon I send Cara, my wife, probably send her 3-4 cat videos a day.
You know how it learns what you like and starts to. There's one thing it did with me. It showed me like a little kid doing a bass solo.
Right, yeah.
But he was pulling how some people, especially like jazz guys, pull like funny faces.
Yeah.
And then I watched it because who wouldn't watch that? And it must have gone. This guy really likes it when kids pull funny faces playing instruments. And before I know it, my Instagram feed is full of little kids pulling funny faces.
Yeah.
Have you seen the same one?
Absolutely. I'm wondering if it's the same one that I've seen, or if there are just quite a few like it, kids doing bass face or really getting into it.
Yeah.
I got to say, it really actually winds me up, but I found it. I wanted to. So my phone is usually on silent, and this picture came out of this kid really going for it with the bass, and I had to turn the sound on and watch it because I wanted to know, is he posing? Because that will irritate me. I don't know, precocious little so and so. I'm like that. That's me. Or is he really into it? Is he properly playing bass, and therefore actually, as odd as it seems, it's legit? In which case, respect. And sure enough, he was really he was getting into it, and he was really doing it. And it was like, okay, I haven't enjoyed this video. I do respect the kid. Move on. And then it did exactly the same to me because I'd spent any time on it. I don't think I even pressed like, but because I opened the video, all the kids with the pulling the faces and the playing music instruments better than they ought to be at that age.
That's so good.
Like, I'm not interested. Yeah. I'm really not interested.
I can't believe I met someone else that has had the same thing happen.
Oh, exactly the same thing. Yeah, and massively. Yeah,
I know. I wouldn't bother liking it because I'd just be one on top of another 20,000, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm just going to check that it has actually been recording. All right, man. I will ask you the question on the thingamy.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
These are actually so far really lame, but I've done it with 3 other people.
No, I don't. I don't think they're lame. I think they've really worked. I really enjoy watching your interactions.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, okay. The first one is essentially give us your story, because I actually don't even know where you're from. I don't think you're from Bath.
Who are you?
I know my story of you, which is quite nice. I saw you probably 3 times busking.
Right. That's how we met.
I really enjoy what he's doing, and I thought I'll go over and ask, and then eventually I did, and then obviously you had a gig at the brew house.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Okay. I can be quite boring. I'll try and keep this as succinct as possible. I'm from Taunton originally.
Okay.
So an hour and a half from Bath, really, in the southwest. And I studied music at college and uni because I wanted to be a rock star when I grew up.
Yeah, of course.
And I still do. And basically, I finished uni, had a degree in commercial music, had absolutely zero idea what to do with anything I'd learned in education around music. We didn't actually get much in the way of, if anything, really, of actual careers advice. Like how do you apply the stuff that you've learned? And on courses like that, I mean, they might be very different now, but the music industry in particular was moving so fast away from physical record sales, records to CDs to this, that, mini discs, MP3s, all that stuff. By the time we finished the degree, a massive percentage of what we'd learnt was already redundant because it had already moved. We were on streaming and things by then. We didn't get taught anything about streaming, and that was sort of the prevalent thing, more or less, pretty quickly after we finished uni. So anyway, I didn't know what I was doing. Spent a year playing in pubs, thinking this doesn't feel like rock stardom. So I went and got a job in a mortgage broker's because I needed to pay the bills, and it was just an easy 9 to 5. Fast forward, I ended up 12 years later. I was the national head of consulting for an investments company, basically wondering what the hell just happened. I'd kept music on as a hobby, but I just completely got sucked into, well, there's nothing, it's not a I wasn't kidnapped or anything, but this other thing was paying the bills, and I went from being a very, very heavily in debt postgraduate to paying off my debts to then actually having some money and being paid really well for a while, and it's kind of addictive. But in 2020 I was offered redundancy, and I thought, right, I'm going to get back to music. So I took the redundancy and I left. Global pandemic arrives, wipes out the music industry. Before I'd even got a chance to do anything, there was no gigs, there was nothing for like 18 months, more or less. And that is when I started. July 2021, I went out and started busking. I'd never done it before. I was absolutely terrified. But I was like, this is not all of the venues were up and running yet with live music. Festivals were still a year or 2 years behind with their bookings. Basically, the whole music industry was still trying to do the right thing and rebook the stuff that had been cancelled during the pandemic. And so I couldn't get in, with the odd exception of, it was really hard to get gigs anywhere. So I was just busking, absolutely working my bum off on the streets of Bath, Wells, Glastonbury, some other places around the southwest, but mostly in Bath. And that's 18 months ago now, I suppose. And I'm now very happily a full-time musician, and it's on the way to feeling, well, it's proving consistent. It's paying bills. It's not yet. I'm not making as much as I'd like to out of it, but seeing how much it's grown in the last 18 months out of literally having nothing.
You can imagine what 18 months' time might look like.
Yeah, exactly. Nice, yeah. So it's pretty exciting. So yeah, I guess my background, I've done lots of different kinds of music. I was in a band called Centerfolds for about 13 years, and I don't even know what you'd call it. It was some sort of alternative indie rock music, quite focused on sounding like now, trying to be quite current. And I left that in 2020 to form Young Martyrs because I just wanted to get back to writing I don't know, just really, really guitar-based stuff. I just my heart is in a great song with 6 strings, or maybe a piano, but I don't play piano very well. A good song, one instrument, and if you want to put a band around it, that's fine. But that's my heart is just around sort of a guy and a guitar.
Right, okay. I think you can tell that from the Young Martyrs music. It's quite. I listened to. Is there one full album on Spotify?
Yes, there is at the moment. Yeah, the next one comes out in March. But awesome. Yeah, the full album is on there.
I listened to that album after I met you. I don't know if awesome. That was. I don't know if that was much recently after it had come out or anything, but yeah, I listened to it, and I really liked it, man.
Awesome, thank you.
It was very. There was a consistency throughout it, which I kind of appreciate. It's not like there has to be, but
yeah, sure.
I feel like if there is, that sort of helps,
Yeah.
Whatever mood I'm in, and listening to it, it can put me in whatever mood it wants to, and then I'll stay there. Mm-hmm. And I liked it, yeah, and it was cool. It's nice nowadays being in a position where I can listen to people's music. Not that I wasn't before, but I think because of the production, the promotional work, I listened to people's music way more than I would have,
sure.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I really liked it.
Oh, thank you.
So how did you get into music? How old were you when you first got a guitar?
I was really young, so I had I grew up in a really noisy house. I have 3 sisters who are older than me. My sisters are all grouped closely together. Then there was an 11-year gap, and then there was me. So they were in their teens when I was little.
No way.
Yeah. So my family consisted of mum, dad, my 3 sisters, all in their teens, and then little me came along. Young teens when I came along. But the house was just always just full of music. There was no one played an instrument, but everyone listened to a load of music. So I had my dad listen to basically guitar music from the 60s, Beatles, Stones, Kinks, that sort of stuff. My mum loved a crooner. She'd listen to loads of Connie Francis, Doris Day, lots of stuff with long, drawn out vowels and lots of heart. Could get into not so much Frank Sinatra really, but things of that style. Solo singers basically almost a semi-musical sort of style. And she loved the old movies with Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and stuff like that. And then my sisters were just all about the pop, the 80s stuff. So I had like tons of Madonna, Erasure, Bronski Beat, Depeche Mode. So it was just always there. And my dad was a bit of a pushy parent where it came to he's still a pushy parent. And I'm grateful actually, not never in a overbearing way, but he just loved, he'd been a roadie for bands around Manchester. My family are from Manchester.
Oh, cool.
We're a big Irish family, and my mum and dad's generation were from Manchester. My sisters grew up there. My dad used to roadie for bands in his teens, so he'd follow them around, he'd lug the gear, he'd be at the gigs, he used to stay out all night at the Twisted Wheel. And he just didn't want to listen to music. He sort of really wanted to be around it. He loves being around guitars and noisy gear and things. And he bought me, he had in the loft, he had this incredible, he didn't get a lot of treats from his parents. They're quite a stern old school family, but at some point they had bought him this Rossetti Solid 7 electric guitar. And if you ever get a chance, look up what they look like. They're phenomenal. The Beatles had them when they first started, and they weren't great quality compared to some guitars of the day, but they looked like out of this world. And his was a particularly flamboyant one. We've still got it. So he bought me, I sort of expressed an interest, and one of my primary school teachers was doing free lessons, guitar lessons in the breaks at school. Would have been about 10 years old, I suppose, 9, 10 years old. So I went along, and the only guitar I had, everyone else turned up with these little Spanish guitars, and I turned up with this 60s rock thing, and the action was like a centimetre and a half, like the strings were so old and high. And we didn't. My dad didn't know about that stuff, and obviously I had no idea. So I learnt to play on these, like, it was massive hand exercises trying to play these chords on this old thing. And yeah, I learnt the chords. Miss Gale was amazing. She was my favourite teacher, and she taught us to play guitar. Me and my mate Alan went along to all the lessons, and that was the only guitar lessons I ever had. That was it. Because I wasn't really interested, and I wish I had been, because I could be a decent player by now. I wasn't interested in being good at guitar. I just needed something I could stand behind because I wanted to sing. That was all I wanted to do. So I learnt all the chords, and then sort out, other printouts of chords for other songs, and worked out quite a lot of it by ear. I've always worked out a lot by ear. And that was it, really. So I kind of just taught myself all the songs that I wanted to do, which ended up being a lot of Eagles, a bit of Stones, lots of Kinks, Beatles, mainly 60s and 70s sort of guitar rock. Then, of course, Oasis is super easy, so there's a lot of that in there.
Big part of guitar learning, Oasis.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, definitely. That's your typical buskery stuff, to the point now where a lot of people, Oasis kind of divides people, I find. Because I know that there's certain pubs that will ban you playing Wonderwall, essentially. As there's open mic nights that I know where they don't allow Wonderwall, and I sort of think fair enough. And it's the one song that you can play and a whole room will just lose their minds. Yeah. Because it sort of unites everyone. Everyone knows it, it was such a big tune that I think that song, above just about anything else, is the song that will make people absolutely just lose themselves. I
really love when you're playing a gig and someone asks for Wonderwall. They've got no idea that they've just done the thing.
Yeah, I know they don't. I've tried to explain this to Cara, and I've said, she says to me, well, if they want to hear it, you can play it. Just play it. Like, isn't it that simple? And I sort of said, but if you, and I do play it. I love Oasis, and I know lots of Oasis songs, and I will happily play it, but I won't play it till the end of the night, because once you've played that one song and the room goes wild to this song, then they want Wonderwall all night long. Then they just want something that is equally universal, equally easy to sing along to, because there's only like 3 notes to sing to in Wonderwall. It's not vocally challenging, It's a brilliant song, I think. I think that's why it's so popular. But where was I the other night? It was at the Cannon in Bath. And right at the end of the night, I was about to pack up, and it had been a really nice night. City centre pub, not like shoulder to shoulder busy, but every table was filled, the bar was filled, and there were still people stood in between. So it was pretty busy. And I played a lovely set. Loads of people had come and sat down. There was people who'd never met before, had all congregated around this one big table in front of me, and they were all chatting. I was chatting to them, and they were making some requests and stuff. And it was busy, and it was lively, and I could see people singing along at the back of the room. And if a request came in, I was trying to accommodate it. It was just really, really, really already a good night, good buzz, good level of audience participation. Someone asked for Wonderwall just as I'm about to pack up, and I think, well, it's that time of night. I'll rock out Wonderwall. Why not? And it was the most violent reception to Wonderwall, I think. And I don't mean like punching and kicking, but I mean suddenly people I didn't even know were in the room. I think it was almost like they'd come in from the streets or from from upstairs or something, appeared, and what you've basically got is a bunch of 20-something lads, and I'm talking, I don't know, 30 of them in not a massive room, pogoing up and down, pushing each other around like a mosh pit in what was this lovely, already busy, vibrant, nice room. But there was, there was the odd couple dancing or having a smooch and stuff. And then you've just got these massive lads jumping around, banging into people and stuff. And it totally changed the vibe. And everyone was happy.
Yeah, sure.
But for me, it ruined the moment. It was like, I know you're all happy and everyone else in the room got it. Oh, it's Wonderwall. Of course this is going to happen. But you've got nowhere to go after that. That's it. You don't want a whole night of that. That's just unless you are a punk band or something, which I'm not. I'm one bloke with a guitar. And there's all these people who come out for, a nice night, and it just changes the atmosphere so much. So
it's like their war cry, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It is a war cry. Anyway, that was a very long-winded retelling of the last time I played one. And I'll play it again, but I only play it right at the end of the night, and that's that. I won't bend on that. That's not changing.
Yeah, it's funny that it does. You're right. It does bring people together. Another one that is Alfie. When I do gigs with Alfie, he plays it. People go nuts. Is that Bastille's song "Pompeii"?
Oh yeah.
That's another one. People lose their minds over that.
Yeah,
but I get it. It's a funny one because I have got to a point now where I'm like, I'm not at all an Oasis fan, but I'd be lying if I said in the past I haven't liked those songs.
Yeah,
of course I have. They're legends.
Yeah.
They're really obviously very gifted songwriters. And, it's like being like naturally lean more towards other styles of music, and then being a musician as well forces you into the camp of like no to Wonderwall. But
yeah, absolutely.
But no, I don't know. Mad respect for Oasis, really. Yeah. I don't know. Oh yeah, you've covered musical influences quite nicely, actually.
Oh, good.
Sifted through it. Plans. What's coming up? So, Young Martyrs have got a new album coming out.
Yeah, that's the big thing at the moment. So I've got a diary full of events and things that I'll be doing on my own. But really, we've got Young Martyrs have got an album coming out. So we released a single in January, halfway through January. We've got another one coming out this Saturday. So that's the 11th of February. I'm not sure when this will come out, but
maybe by then. Probably by then.
So second single is coming out on the 11th of Feb.
What's that called?
It is called Never Gave You the Blues.
Nice.
I'm really, really excited about it because it's something that I took a bit of a chance on, and I'm really proud of it. It's a duet, and it's a very, very country sounding duet. And I didn't know, when someone says the word, even saying it out loud, the word duet to me makes me cringe and feels a bit Disney. But I knew what I needed this song to be. And we got Natalie Bryce, who's a brilliant singer from the band Sonova. Her husband actually produced the album, Seb, and she sang the female lead on this song. And it's just beautiful. I'm so proud of it. Nice. I'm so proud of it. I really am.
Do you write all the songs?
I did. I wrote all the songs on the first album and most of the songs on the second album. Some of them this time around were a collaboration. So the band, all brought ideas, and I'm the only, as we speak, the only full-time musician in the band. The other guys are like most musicians in the world, they have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And so I basically drive it. So most of the new ideas come from me. Most of the promotion, most of the decision making comes from me. But I try as much. I wanted it to be. I formed the band, but I really want it to be a band. It's not supposed to be me plus my friends. It's I want to be in a band. I want it to feel like a band. So I think that's what we have. I certainly hope so. It feels like something of four people, but yeah, I inject a bit more than everyone else does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, again, from the outside looking in, yours is the only sort of face that I can think of. But even having a name that's clearly a band name, I suppose it's a bit like for some people, like Coldplay, would be kind of like if it was called Chris Martin and the Chipmunks or whatever.
I'd buy that record.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everyone knows what he's the identifiable face. Or he's the one you can name. I think most people probably couldn't name all the other band members, but
I probably don't know any of the other names.
But it's definitely a band.
Yeah.
So
undoubtedly,
I agree. Yeah,
it's undoubtedly a band, and they're a good example. I quite like. Do you ever watch the Tiny Desk concerts?
Yeah.
Have you seen Coldplay's?
I haven't actually. No.
It's incredible.
Is it really good?
Yeah, it's really good. They have a gospel choir, and they do "Cry, Cry, Cry."
Right.
And then they do another Coldplay song, and then they do a couple of covers. And the choir are heavily involved. It's just tremendous. Yeah.
Wow.
I think even if you weren't a Coldplay fan, you'd absolutely love it. Yeah.
I mean, they are really good at what they do, and I haven't really been into Coldplay after X and Y, probably. I think the first three albums, Parachutes, Rush of Blood to the Head, X and Y. And then after that, I kind of lost interest. I'm not really into it. But at the heart of it, they are really good musicians, really good songwriters, and really, I mean, they sound great. All of them are good at what they do. You can't fault. Whenever I've seen them live a couple of times at Glastonbury, and they have been consistently one of, if not the best thing that I've seen. They just blow everyone out of the water. It doesn't matter whether you're a fan or not. They are just so good. They're so professional. They're really, really, really something else. So I'll check that out. Yeah, I like the Tiny Desk stuff. Man.
I haven't seen them live or anything like that, but I think when I was younger, I wasn't really a fan of like the kind of British indie scene or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I would see them show up on telly playing live.
Yeah.
And it would draw you in, no doubt. Yeah, because they're such fantastic musicians.
Yeah.
And showmen in a nice way, like showmen in a nice, not like
I think so.
Yeah, they're not over the top or anything. Yeah, they're fantastic. And it was a mate called Billy said that they did. I don't know when this was, last album or whatever. They like played somewhere and timed one of their songs with the sun setting or something like that. Like that is just wild. Like that's some impressive stuff.
But it's that sort of thing that I think really puts some people off, because a lot of people just want a band to be a band. They don't. Yeah, true. But I think a lot of people are just not. They're never happy. I was thinking about this on the way over here actually. What was I listening to? I forget. Oh no, I was listening to Foy Vance, who's a massive. I'm a huge fan of his. His voice is just phenomenal, and his songwriting is great. His sound over the sort of, was it 4 albums now, has evolved somewhat to a place where his voice is still his voice and the songwriting is still his songwriting, and that's the most important bit to me. But the sounds around it is a lot more atmospheric. There's almost a lot of sort of dance elements in there, a bit more electronic stuff, or the insinuation of something electronic. So it might be guitar pedals and things like that, but it sounds more synthy. And it got me thinking about like, and then the next thing that came up randomly on my Spotify was Mumford and Sons, who I haven't listened to their stuff for a while, but it felt like they had 2 or 3 albums that might as well have just been one, because the sound just didn't alter for the whole thing. And I can think of people who have fallen out of love with Mumford and Sons because they just sound the same all the time. And I can think of people who have fallen out with Foy Vance because he's changing his sound. And like, you just can't win, can you? Like,
that's true.
You know, I don't know what the right answer is. I guess the answer is never mind what anyone thinks of it. You make the music that you want to make. And
you know that's it, isn't it? You go on your own journey and you evolve, and you get, there'll be something that you're like, oh, I fancy that, I'm into that, and then you'll explore whatever that is. You know? And there's no avoiding it. And like the classic turning electric thing. You know what I mean? Like I now play electric at a lot of gigs.
Yeah. I know. I've been seeing that.
And if I'm solo, I'll most likely play acoustic still, and I still love acoustic music.
Sure, yeah.
But it's one of those, isn't it? And that sort of thing will seep out into your recording and your songwriting.
Yeah.
And then someone who got into you because of what you once did, or got into someone else because of what they once did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like your perception could be that they're betraying their integrity. But the reality is they're actually doing the opposite.
Completely.
Because they're like, actually, I want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, if I was to say, I'm not going to do this because of this militia or whatever, then that would be the opposite, which is interesting. Coldplay's a funny example because, you know, they're like one of the biggest bands in the world, sort of thing. So like I have no idea whether they explored what they wanted, or someone with money in their eyes got involved one day. I have no idea.
I haven't. I really don't know. I think one thing you can say about them, and could say about them for every single album that they've ever put out, is they don't sound like anything else. They don't, to me anyway. There's nothing. I can't think of anyone that they sound like, and I don't think that's ever been true of anything they've done. Which to me sort of tells me that they're not chasing a particular zeitgeist. They're not trying to sound like. They're not trying to sound like now. They're not trying to fit into this scene or fit into that scene. I'd like to believe, and like I said, I'm not particularly a fan of their most recent stuff. I don't dislike it either, but it's just not what I would put on. But I think that I get the impression that, and I'd like to believe that they are just making noises that they really like making. And if people come along on the journey with them, then amazing. And
great.
That's it.
And maybe they'll lose some people along the way.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's funny you say that about the always sounding different. I agree with that. But you know, when you've heard it a million times, about any old band, all their songs sound the same.
Yeah.
Or all that sounds the same. And I think that's regularly, sometimes that's true, but I think that's regularly just that genre is not your cup of tea.
True.
So
True.
It would be easy to say all blues sounds the same or all reggae.
Absolutely.
And I think that I probably put them in that back when they were 2 albums in. So like when I was in high school, like to me they were the same as Travis.
Right. Okay.
But now I wouldn't dream of saying that.
Sure. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And I actually wouldn't dream of saying that about those albums either.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, if I listen back to like Yellow, I still think that now sounds very individual. No one sounds like it. But back then, to me, it all sounded the same.
That's very true. That is very true, actually. I do definitely agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah,
good point.
Cry, Cry, Cry was one for me. I'm not like a huge Coldplay fan or anything, but like I've never really even bought any of their music. But I heard Cry, Cry, Cry and I loved it. Because it's fairly bluesy.
Right, yeah.
So we covered it, and annoyingly, the best my sort of Spotify does is all through that song.
Really?
Yeah. I say annoyingly, I've got to be appreciative. I am appreciative of it. I really am, and I don't know what the numbers would look like without that.
Sure. Well, I think it's difficult though, isn't it? Because we all want to be known for making our own mark,
of course.
But before you've made that mark on a lot of people's memories, it's kind of easier to get a foot in the door with something that they're familiar with or vaguely familiar with, and I think that is often the way, isn't it? I mean, artists get discovered making someone else's music, and or performing someone else's music, and then get on to do their own thing. And, you know,
it's definitely a way. Yeah, I I think just from being around in a lot and involved in a lot, I get an okay amount of sort of streams and attention for my own stuff now. There was a time where just for everybody, I mean, you know what it's like, you pour your heart and soul into it and 10 people listen to it or something, right? It just destroys you. But so now when I look at the numbers, it'll say like however many, it'll list like 5 countries and that have all listened to the version of Cry Cry Cry, like 12 times or something. So it's obvious that they like that song.
Yeah.
And then they'll have listened to other songs of mine twice.
Yeah.
So it's like what you've said. They would never have given me a look.
Yeah.
Because of Christ and I, and
Absolutely.
as a result, they dabbled onto something else.
Yeah.
Then as a result, I think Old Time Train made it onto somebody's playlist in another country.
Amazing. Like that's awesome.
So, and that wouldn't have happened had they not listened to
Right.
Cry. Yeah, which is really cool.
Huh.
Oh yeah. Whenever I ask you'll understand this.
Right, go on.
You know the 5-year plan?
Yeah.
Like I say you'll understand this because I've asked like the odd sort of 20-year-old and they've never heard this question before.
That's not a thing.
It used to be a real thing, didn't it?
Yeah.
What's your 5-year plan? Your plan, yeah, basically. And I'm asking it as somebody who, to be quite frank, my 5-year plan probably involves me doing this in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I have no. It's not like a strategic business question. It's just a curiosity.
Sure.
You know, where would Tom Corneill be in 5 years?
I have a bit of a challenge in answering that honestly, because modesty prevents me, or not wanting to be disappointed.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
Stops me from saying what my heart is telling me it would like to be. I suppose conservatively, my 5-year plan is now plus. It's like all the things I'm doing, but I get paid slightly more than I do now for each thing that I do.
Yeah.
And there is enough of it in the diary, far enough in advance that I'm never stressed about it. So I'm always booking for the following summer or something, you know, so that it's all the work is in the diary. And I'm talking there, so that there's kind of two strands to me, my existence, my career. One is the band and making my own music with the band, and the other one is how I pay to exist is performing generally covers for weddings and events and you know, pubs and clubs and things like that. So money, it's January, so money's on my mind.
Yeah.
So that's the conservative thing is okay, well I love the life that I live, so just more of this please, but if I could have a bit more money for it and a bit more assurance, a bit more consistency, that'd be great. And I think that's coming with time. Really and truly, if I sort of removed the stabilizers and said, what do you want it to be? I would be purely getting paid to make my own music with Young Martyrs, because lots of people are listening to it, and I would still be doing some gigs on my own, but it would be as and when I wanted to. As opposed to yeah, absolutely, yeah, exactly that. Royalties, basically, I'll be living off royalties. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That's really and truly, that's where I want to be. And it isn't about not wanting to work hard. If someone would pay me to do it, I would work just as hard, and I work really, really hard at it now, and I would work just as hard to do my own music. But such are things, you know, when you're just starting out, and really that is the case for my own music. Young Martyrs are only a couple of years old, and we didn't have a music industry 2 years ago when the band came out. You don't get much you get virtually nothing for streams unless there's a lot of it coming in. Yeah. And you know, royalties are pretty low in the early days, so you need to do the other things that you do. But I thankfully I love playing guitar, I love singing, I like to be around people when they're in a good mood. That's what I love doing. I play at so many weddings because it's a nice time to be around people. You know?
It can be very lovely.
You're helping to make their day magical. And quite often now, because I've really committed to sharing more of my music on social media and stuff, I quite often get requests during people's big day that they want Young Martyrs music, which is amazing. That's dream come true. That tells me that actually going in the right direction. So
well, that's a great example of how not black and white it is. I think it's very easy to think of when it comes to like success through music. There's a line or there's a ceiling, and then there's like one day things go right, you'll be on the other side of that, and it's not really how it is at all.
No.
Like a version of what you've just said,
Yeah.
I think a totally doable and not over the top dreamy version is that 5 years from now, you could be making, like, let's say you made £200 a year from your streams, and a lot more than that from just the odd CD and stuff like that. And then every now and then you went home and you were like, oh, look at this money that I've got, and it's from my own music.
Yeah.
And then also, let's say that the types of gigs where some Young Martyrs stuff might be actually quite welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That will slowly increase. I don't think, it would be very hard to make it 100%, but the ratio of what you have to do versus what you would totally choose to do slowly shifts.
Yeah.
And I think that the dream for all of us maybe is the actual conservative / dream for all of us is to one day have the ratio as close to what we want as
exactly
physically possible.
It's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, that's bang on.
Yeah, exactly. Coming from someone who does the same thing as you do, basically. Yeah, it's just a nightmare. I actually remember Marie and I went to Venice for a couple of days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, well, we go away a lot.
Right.
But a couple of years ago, so I don't actually know how long now.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. We went to Venice, and while we were in Venice, it was like one of the only times I've gone away and not been happy. And it's because I looked at streams from something, and they were rubbish.
Yeah.
And it was like, it had really done me in. And it's so upsetting because when I was at uni, like pre-Spotify, only just, but pre-Spotify, and CDs were very much a thing. I gave out a couple CDs, I don't even know. And I heard 2 people playing it so often that they were singing along. And then one other person ended up singing along when I played, so he clearly had. And then my mum had said that my dad had listened to it loads. So that's 4. That's 4 people.
Yeah.
And it made it was just so lovely. And if I saw on Spotify, 4 people have been listening to your music, you'd want to like give it all up. It's a funny way of looking through I don't even know what point I'm trying to make.
No, I get it. Information at your fingertips is not always a helpful thing. And actually, a lesson learned from my other life back in investments.
Nice.
Some of the best advice that someone ever gave to me was, basically, when you invest in something over time, like the world ends up all right. We go through some bad stuff, but thankfully, most people come through things and we're okay on the other side of it. And as time goes on, humanity gets healthier, lives longer, etc. And investments are a little bit like that as well. If you leave things long enough, markets are going to go up, they're going to go down, they're going to have some frightening points, they're going to get really, really amazing, they're going to come down again. And someone said to me, best advice, don't look at your investments every day. I didn't have any money, so it didn't make any difference. But they were talking, generally to other people. Don't check it every day, because you're going to have some days where things look really, really bad, and it will absolutely ruin your day. But if you can wait for an annual statement instead, you'll see that actually things are pretty good on the whole. They'll always end up. That's that sort of thing. Things over time, if you can step back far enough, things are generally all right in life. And I really stuck with me because I try. I'm only human, so like you, I would have plummeted if I'd checked and I'd only had a couple of streams on something. I would have been exactly the same. It happens to me all the time. But I try to remember that one little lesson and think, yeah, but hang on a second. Look what you were doing a year ago. Look what you were doing 2 years before. Look, step back and look at your sort of trajectory in life. Things generally go pretty much in the way you want them to,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
I guess that
to remember.
That yearly thing that Spotify does.
Yeah.
The artist wrap up or whatever.
Yeah.
It's quite clever in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like what you're saying.
But then there's an easy way to really bum yourself out with that is someone else, look at what someone else has posted and they've done better than you have. Yeah. And then you just think, why? I've been working really hard. I should have done the best ever out of anyone. And you'll be surprised by someone who possibly you think, let's say you're surprised to see they've done quite so well as they have done. And,
yeah, sure. It's not bad on them. It's just
no.
It's just, yeah, why haven't I got that?
It's never about the other person. It's always about yourself. It's whatever you're feeling, whatever, your negativity and things. You're always touching on something that's inside you. You're disappointed because you didn't do bad, not because they did so well. You just project it wrong. But
there's always so many reasons, though, isn't there? Like, someone just being a student, already having everyone having access to so many people face to face on a daily or whatever. I always think that, look, if I was doing now this as a student, it might have been very different.
Yeah.
And then also some people do and I'm not knocking it, but some people do generally just pay. You get that, don't you? People pay, and then their Spotify goes through the roof.
Absolutely. And there's ways that you can do that and it works, and there's ways that you can do it and it doesn't work. And I've spent money on it in the past, and certain methods have seen a little increase, and certain things have been a total waste of money. Some people have deep pockets and they can pay a lot more, and then you're guaranteed to see some sort of results. At the end of the day, it doesn't. We're way off topic at this point. I'm sorry. I feel like
I don't even know what it was.
But at the end of the day, I think that allowing yourself, be inspired by those people who are doing better than maybe you would expect them to, for whatever reason you feel that judgment applies. Because I was in Paris at the weekend, and we went to the cemetery where, among other luminaries, Jim Morrison is buried, and he's buried there because he wanted to be buried there, and so his people lobbied and lobbied and lobbied for him to be there. The director of the cemetery at the time didn't want him there, and that is Jim Morrison all over for me. I love the Doors music. I definitely think he had some talent. Was he as good as he thought he was? Absolutely, in my humble opinion, and I know people fall out with me for this, he was just a pretty average songwriter with immense self-belief. And that self-belief carried him so far, even to the point of getting buried in like the most famous cemetery in the world with Oscar Wilde is in there, and Proust is in there, and Chopin is in there. He's in there with all these famous people. And obviously he's very, very famous, and he was talented. I'm not saying for a moment that he wasn't, but there's a big lesson there for me with a lot of people who do well in whatever your discipline is, whether you're a musician or an artist, whatever. It's a hard thing to teach. I'm not even sure you can teach yourself, but if there's a way you can kind of meditate on it and bring yourself to the point of having a bit more faith in yourself, it carries you a long, long way. And I'd see that a lot with people who I'm a little surprised to see they're shooting up so fast and doing so well. One common theme is they're not stopping to ask anyone how good they are. They're not worried about whether they're good enough. They're just getting on with it and thinking, I'm good enough, I'm going to do it, and then they do.
I like to call it balls deep confidence.
That's a very good way of putting it.
It's so true. Like, and obviously the same. I wouldn't want to ever cross the line into being straight up arrogant, but I just feel like if ever you're worried about whether something will work or whether you should or whatever, whether it's an outfit or a whatever, whatever, just full on, like, absolute belief, because it's all like whatever people believe spiritually and whatever, it's all just stuff. It's like who I don't know, like on some level it's all just like we're just people who like make noises.
Absolutely.
And then we meet other people that make noises, and we're like, I like the noises you make, or I like the noises you make, or I think you could probably make those noises better, or whatever. It's all just whatever. So you can just make it up, really. I think.
Absolutely.
Totally believe in yourself, put in your hard work, and then watch it pay off. I know it's really random, because I've not gone on courses over this and stuff, but just scooting back, do you know the Instagram thing? When you play live, is there anything visual that says where to find you?
I do. On a good day, I can be good at this, but I quite often am not. And it's often nerves that stop me. So I have a little, when it's just me playing solo, pubs, clubs, things like that, I generally have a sign that's got my name on it.
Sure.
I have flyers and things, and dependent on if I know the nature of the place that I'm going to be playing, I've usually got an idea of whether it might be a good place to promote me and my solo stuff, the covers, because that is a good way of picking up private bookings for weddings, birthday parties, house parties, things like that. But I will always talk about and play a couple of songs by Young Martyrs, because I think that kind of is a general, I kind of don't care whether they like it or not. I'm just going to do it anyway.
Yeah,
so
of course, yeah.
I have flyers and things. Some places I feel pretty comfortable just wandering around, putting flyers on all the tables. Other places you get a vibe and you just feel like, I'm not sure if I should, which is silly, really, based on exactly what we're talking about. I should
balls
be
deep confidence.
Absolutely, just doing it every time.
Yeah. Imagine it. A quaint little cafe. Doesn't matter. Everybody, this is me. So I don't do that.
Yeah.
Even though I could do. Why not? But I never even. I have no commitment to this area, but my little poster that just has the little symbols and my name on it.
Yeah.
I gradually get more and more Instagram followers based solely on that.
Yeah, that's really good.
3 or 4 a week because of the gig, and just based solely on that.
Yeah,
just
that's
someone young who's of the age group of Instagram.
Yeah. I can't think on your side. Do you have like a QR code or anything like that, or is it literally you've just got it written up?
And it's not even my Instagram account is written really small.
Yeah.
It's just that if you search the DR3W Hall,
that's right.
I come up fairly easily. Yeah, so it's just that really, and I know that, and I actually, funnily enough, I got that poster with the multiple guitars. I left it in the wrong case, and it hasn't really been up much lately at gigs, and as a result, I haven't really had many more people. I'm talking, single digits.
Yeah, but it does make a difference, though. Yeah, we could all be better at that. And a lot of places you play at are surprisingly bad at actually promoting the music, so you don't always see posters and things like that. So yeah, we could all be better at that. But I'm going to redouble my efforts to just be ballsy and get out and
that's it.
Do that.
Yeah. I love talking to my dad about this sort of thing, because he's been self-employed for quite a long time.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And he's he's got quite a good business mind on him, and early on, he spoke to me about loads of stuff, which through time has made more and more and more sense. By early on, I mean early on in my self-employment.
Yeah.
And he'll say about he's got the belief in the number 3. Like if things come in, I can't fully back that up, but one of them is if they have to do more than 3 things.
Oh yeah.
And I think he actually says that even more than that, if they have to do more than 2 things, nearly everyone, 9 out of 10 will immediately stop.
Yeah, you've lost them.
Yeah. So if to find out your name involves more than just looking up and seeing it written, what are the odds that they're going to then look you up and find you and stuff like that?
Yeah. I really agree with that, and I think that for me, and it might be the case for a lot of other people as well, I don't commit sometimes to. Truth is, if you just bring people, you just want to bring them to one place, and once they're in that place, then you can talk about the various things that you do. But if you instead try and talk about all the things that you do, and when you're trying to get people to come and follow you, you're going to lose them, because they don't know what people don't have an attention span long enough to to focus on all of those. Oh, he's in a band, but he also does this. I mean, he does pubs like this, but he also does weddings, but he also does, you can. I know this, but I sometimes break the rule thinking, oh, it'll be different tonight, and it won't, because people don't. That's how people are, and sometimes I don't do one thing for long enough, because I also have a very short attention span, and I have a massive fear of failure, and so you don't commit to something long enough to work out whether that's the one that's going to work for you. So
same, yeah. No, I totally relate. I've got I think probably time wise, I'll have to we'll crack on with me, but so I've got a thing over that when we in HMV, we played in HMV, and they were like, oh, you should, we'll stock your CD if you want. And I was like, okay, I've done all right. I've had some people listen to my stuff. So I went in and did it and printed off actual CDs, and all that jazz, and then stocked it there and everything. And then we did an album launch there, and all the way through the album launch, I'm saying, "Hey, CDs over there, go on." No one bought one that day. No one bought one, and that was like, "Oh, why don't you just spit in my face?" You know. But we played a gig on Sunday at the Grapes, and 5 albums sold.
Amazing.
And it wasn't even about that; it was just a gig.
That's great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just one of them, isn't it? It's.
Oh man, I mean, how often I've played some of what I feel like have been my best gigs ever in rooms where people just didn't care. And I knew that I felt like there was moments of those gigs, and I could just be entirely deluded. It's totally possible that actually I wasn't very good that night. But I've been doing this a long time. And I know that there are certain songs that I do very well, and on certain nights I play it perfectly and my voice just hits all the notes in just that right spot between, there's just enough sort of breaking up in your voice to feel some emotion, but it's in control enough to be like, yeah, he's nailed it. There's moments where you just where even if you really doubt yourself, there's moments where I think I was good tonight. Like and I'm not suggesting that I go home like that every night. I definitely don't. There's times when I finish a gig and I think I was the best that I can be tonight. I'd love to always play that well. Yeah. And yet people are not even paying attention. You're just in one of those rooms on one of those nights where they just didn't really come to listen to you, or it just happens, and you just kind of have to suck that up. You get used to being wallpaper, or maybe the thing is that you're playing and you are going down really, really well, and you think, right, I'm doing well, therefore CD sales, and just nobody buys a CD, and it doesn't compute, but it happens. I don't know why. It's heartbreaking. And
there's the whole I don't even have a CD player, but I'm not going to tell him that. And I think that another thing with all of that is you actually could be going down in many people's minds incredibly well. Yeah. But the atmosphere going on right now is what you're doing is creating the vibe they want. Yeah. Happy days. Totally. In many, I've early on in trying to gig regularly for a job, I had a gig where my mind was on a journey throughout, just like, this is terrible. Everyone's chatting. No one even cares. And then someone at the end came over and said, we saw that you were playing, wanted to hear you, and to see if we would want you at our wedding, and we do. Could you please come? Yeah. And that wouldn't, before that moment, I would have put it in the bin as a terrible gig that no one cared about.
I've definitely had that happen. Yeah, it only often takes one person to say something really, really nice to change your whole opinion of how a gig went.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
and it happens, which is great. So I guess, and anyone watching this, if you're ever at a gig, make an effort to say something nice to the person you're watching, because it really, really lifts their spirits.
Just a little clap.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see that person, like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Imagine that balls deep confidence thing.
Definitely.
Just at the end of it, you go, I've started doing something, it's just a bit of a joke, and a few people even know the joke. It's at the end of a song, I say that was really good, just into the mic. It's just a thing. It finishes. Usually if I'm doing a duo gig or something, I'll say, that was really good. Just like that or something. And it's usually because no one's clapped and no one did. It's like, someone had to say it. Yeah. So I did. That was really good. And that's
good. I like that.
Mate, I could, I say this a lot, but I really mean it. I could sit and chat to you about this.
Likewise.
For ages and ages.
Yeah.
But do you want to have a bit of a jam?
That'd be cool. Yeah. Absolutely. That'd be real nice.
Let's make some music.